What's up, a Cinema Shogun here, and today we are talking about Rudy Farias. Rudy Farias is a 25-year-old man that was just found in Houston, Texas, after he had been missing for 8 years. Missing from the very city that he was found in, Houston, Texas. Now, if you've done your math correctly, then yes, that means that Rudy had been missing since 2015. Since he was like 17 years old. But now, he has been found. The only problem is there are some very shady, very questionable details surrounding his disappearance. In fact, I am questioning if he ever really disappeared at all. Maybe someone wanted to make it look as if he disappeared. Maybe someone wanted it to seem as if he was missing. And the only reason I say that is because the details surrounding this story, the excuses, the stories that are being thrown out there, they're not adding up, ladies and gentlemen. Now, if you want all of the details, you need to go watch my prior videos on this story, because I cannot sit here and reiterate everything that I've already gone over. But long story short, Rudy's family claims that Rudy was out walking his dogs. He had 2 dogs. They claim that he was walking his dogs when he saw a group of human trafficking gangsters assaulting a little girl, and they were trying to kidnap her so they could sell her into the sex trafficking trade. But then Rudy, at that moment, realized that he must step up, and heroically, Rudy went forward. He stopped the gangster human traffickers from stealing the little girl. He saved the little girl, but in the process, the traffickers decided to take Rudy. And then, after holding Rudy and trafficking Rudy for 8 years, they decided to drop him off at a church in the same city where he went missing from. That's the story that Rudy's family wants us to believe. But when you look into this story, you could quickly debunk what his family has been saying. Because you see, his family wants us to believe this elaborate story about him stopping human traffickers and getting kidnapped in the process. But if you look back in the news, it turns out that Rudy was actually spotted by his family in 2018. Rudy had been missing since 2015. But the family had spotted Rudy around town before. They're claiming that this is the first time they saw Rudy. They thought Rudy was dead. They thought this, they thought that. But the family already saw him in 2018, even reported that he was living behind someone's house. I'll read you all a quick snippet from this news article. Man found alive 8 years after going missing was spotted by family in 2018, Houston police say. According to Houston Police Department, officers got a call from Farias' family in September 2018 after he was spotted living behind a family's home. When officials arrived at the location, they did not find him. So right there off the bat, that lets you know that the family has fabricated this fairy tale heroic story about Rudy fighting off traffickers and getting kidnapped in the process, when in reality, the family knows that that's not the case. The family knows that traffickers have not had Rudy this entire time because, according to the Houston Police Department, the family had called and reported that they saw Rudy living behind someone's house in the past. Now, what family contacted the police about this? Whose house was he behind? They say that he was behind a family's house. Was it his family's house? Those details remain unclear. And when I can get to the bottom of that, I will definitely let y'all know. But that's not the only details that are really shady surrounding this case. You see, right now there's a lot of confusion surrounding when was Rudy really found and when was Rudy checked into the hospital. Because online, someone claiming to be Rudy's aunt, she's sharing pictures of Rudy in a hospital bed, claiming that Rudy is really banged up. He's got cuts and bruises. And the news, or some news outlets, have reported this. But other news outlets are claiming that Rudy turned down medical help. You see, the story that the family's putting out there is that Rudy was found beaten and battered and unresponsive outside of this church, and that Rudy is mute now. He refuses to talk. And that Rudy's suffering from all of these mental health issues. But when I look through news articles, they're stating that Rudy turned down medical treatment. Now, how would Rudy be able to do that if Rudy is mute and not talking to anyone? Okay, whatever. But then it also says that Rudy's mother refused to have the ambulance take Rudy to the hospital. I want to go ahead and read to you all a couple of snippets from this other news article. Houston police confirmed that Farias was found at the church located on 76th and Avenue K on Thursday. A caller told authorities that someone was sleeping outside the church front doors. Houston Police Department says that Farias had an item on him with a family member's identification, which is how they were able to contact his family. The Houston Fire Department also responded to that initial call. They said that police and Farias' mother were already on the scene when they got there. Officials say that Farias declined to be taken to the hospital and was instead signed into the care of his mom. So, for one, he's not unresponsive. He was found sleeping outside the church. For two, he was found with some type of identification on him that helped the police department contact his family. That doesn't sound right to me. You want me to believe that this kid was kidnapped at the age of 17. He was held hostage for 8 years, and then they released him in the same city they kidnapped him from, and then they released him in front of a church, still wearing the same necklace that he was wearing when he went missing, and they just so happened to make sure that he had the proper identification on him and information so that law enforcement could contact his mom. Missing for 8 years, somehow still has the information on him to identify him and to contact his mother. Does not add up. Does not add up one bit. It's all way too convenient. And the mother was on scene just like that. Just like that. So this does not add up to me, ladies and gentlemen. But they say that he refused to be taken to the hospital. And when I go further into other news articles, here's what they say. The Houston Fire Department responded to the scene at the request of police. Houston Fire Chief Sam Pena told CNN. When they arrived, Farias' mother was already there. Crews assessed Rudy, but he refused to be taken to a hospital, according to Pena. Rudy's mother signed a form refusing her son's transport, he said. At that point, Rudy was left with family and police. So, It's unclear when Rudy was taken to the hospital. You see, the understanding that was out there was that, oh, Rudy was found. Rudy was automatically transported to the hospital because Rudy was unresponsive. But now that you do a little bit more digging, you realize that no, Rudy was not unresponsive. Rudy was asleep. And that Rudy was not transported from the scene to the hospital by paramedics. Rudy's mother refused for that to happen. Now, if your kid had been missing for 8 years and he was found in bad shape, cuts, bruises, what they describe as holes in his body, and you refuse to let him get medical treatment on the scene, you refuse for the ambulance to take him to the hospital. I know ambulance rides aren't cheap. I know that. But all of that thinking kind of goes out the window when your kid's been missing 8 years. But no. So it's unclear as to if the mother decided to take him to the hospital later that day, if she took him a day after, the next day. We don't exactly know. We do know that he was found on the 29th. The confusion is, when was he admitted into the hospital? Now, you might remember in a previous video, we talked about something that his aunt was talking about that I also found odd. His aunt was claiming that they were looking for people to come sit up at the hospital with Rudy, which is really weird considering the fact that Rudy had been missing for 8 years, and you would think that his mother would no longer want to leave his side. But no, they were ready and willing to leave his side, and supposedly, from what this post says, they were looking for family members on social media that would come sit up there with him. Now, we've heard from family members, and they claim that Rudy's mother is behind Rudy's disappearance, and that she's been holding him in hiding for 8 years. And I got more details that we'll get to about that in future videos. But in this post, this woman is asking for people to delete all of the photos of Rudy in the hospital. Delete all of the photos showing Rudy's wristband, his hospital band. Now, I'm not saying this means anything, but I definitely have to look at this with a raised eyebrow, considering the fact that now we know that Rudy's mother refused to allow Rudy to go to the hospital from the scene, refused to allow the ambulance to take Rudy, and now it's kind of up to, right now it's unclear as to when Rudy was actually taken to the hospital. Some people even believe that Rudy was never taken to the hospital and that these photos are of someone else or something of that nature. I'm not going to go so far as to say that, but the details surrounding when he was taken to the hospital are very odd. And I would just think that a mother, a family member of someone that is found after 8 years, you're going to want them to get all of the care they need immediately. But that's not the case here. That's not the case at all. So, in conclusion, we still don't know exactly what happened here at all. It's still a very confusing story, and I'm confusing myself just talking about it. But at the very least, we know one thing. We know that the story that the family put online about Rudy being kidnapped while trying to save a little girl from traffickers, we know that that's complete nonsense. That is a complete lie. A bold-faced lie that they are spreading online for whatever reason, I don't know. But we now know for a fact, confirmed by the Houston Police Department, that this family who created this lie about their son being kidnapped by traffickers, we know that this family has spotted Rudy out there, supposedly living behind someone's house in 2018. So what else is this family lying about? We know that the family is claiming that right after Rudy was found, after missing for 8 years, Someone stole Rudy's mom's car and crashed it. One of her haters who are out to get her. Seriously. Rudy's mother and the aunt, they spin some wild stories. And there's also people coming forward claiming they knew Rudy and Rudy's family, or that they're friends of the family, and they're revealing some information that might blow your mind. And we will get to that in future videos. For now, let me know your thoughts about this down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit the subscribe, ring that notification bell, and I'll talk to you all in the next video.